3 a.m. It is 3 a.m., man. Honest to God, I've been avoiding doing the recap for this quest. Like I owe it rent, man. But do you guys want to know something hilarious? Remember the Firefly faked her death video? I am astounded at how a video can be both so right and so wrong at the exact same time. Legitimately, it's insane. I somehow managed to both look like Nostradamus and Stevie Wonder at the same time. I mean, in that video, we called that there was this death realm. We called that dying to the meme was the only way to get there, and that one was like half right. We also said that Firefly and Sam were two different people, which well, hey, we'll get them next time, I guess. And probably our worst sin of that video, we got Robin completely wrong. We made her sound like some dumb bitch who just got caught lacking, when in actuality, Robin is a genius. But we'll talk about that later. Anyway, the 2.1 storyline, apart from being a Trailblaze quest that covers the main story, was also a multi-perspective narrative that somehow also became an adventuring story quest that gave his horrifically depressing backstory, before ultimately leaving his fates a complete mystery. We finally learned who Sam was, although this was fucking apparent to all the Dreamwalkers who spawned into existence on planet Earth during patch 1.6, and despite my best efforts to craft an argument otherwise, Sam is Firefly. Although this, I don't know, we'll talk about it later. We learn that they are a bunch of failures. Robin, on the other hand, is a complete genius who's still alive, faked her death, learnt the truth, and is currently too scared to speak about it. That's why she's a mute. Constance of the Everflame Mansion is still out and about and has made her voice heard. A very mysterious and real galaxy ranger named Boothill is currently headed for a collision course with our residence emanator. But through it all, the most significant thing to happen thus far was the 13-year-old Gallagher, who by the end of the story may be the most dangerous person on Penacony. And if it weren't for those evil bastards on the English localization team, it would be a lot more apparent to all the English speakers, given for some godforsaken reason they decided to omit the fact that Sunday called Gallagher a follower of Enigmata. Bro, we've ragged on the English localization team's work a couple of times in Genshin, but this is coming. How, nigga? There's a supervillain making these decisions over there. Accidents happens, I guess, but this is just... Regardless, before we can talk about all the implications of everything we just mentioned, we must once again ensure that we are all on the same page with a recap. So, without further ado, let's begin. 2.1 picks up exactly where 2.0 left off, a side-by-side with aventurine, seemingly at the scene of Robin's death. Aventurine informs us he had nothing to do with her death, and that this isn't even the scene of the fucking crime, despite how dramatic he made the entrance. Rather, what we're looking at is a light cone memory, which, to be fair, does answer the question of why her body acted much differently after her death compared to Firefly's, because it just, wasn't her body. Adventure Time then speaks on the conundrum that is death in Penacony, telling us when someone is in distress, they will be forcibly awakened and returned to reality. He then tells us the reason the family is confident in this is due to their dream weavers, who link their minds together to create a defensive line that not even a memo keeper could break through, thus keeping death out of their dreamscape. It's for this reason he accuses Acheron of being behind Robin's death, as due to her being an emanator, she's the only one with the power to bring death into this beautiful dream. Black Swan then appears and informs us that Robin's death is indeed a real memory that hasn't been tampered with. Aventurine then expresses his desires to team up with the Astral Express. He tells us the family are difficult to work with, and because they have a history of keeping quiet on the existence of death, they will also most likely cover up Robin's death. He tells us to speak to the other members of the Express before arriving at a decision, and so Black Swan leads us out of the memory zone to rejoin the group. Once we make it out, we cut to black, seemingly to find out what happened between Sam and Acheron, after Black Swan cock-blocked us from seeing the end of this fight. Sam then demands Acheron use her sword. Keep note of that, by the way, it's going to be very important later on. Acheron then asks Sam if he still dreams of those he's killed. We then cut to what happened the last time someone asked Acheron to use her sword, and it just so happened to be a few days ago, and it was our good old pal Ifrit. This scene takes place after whatever their conflict was, where Acheron informs Ifrit that the rest of the mansion is still alive, and as long as he just leaves the music box behind, he too is free to leave. Ifrit then just kinda chooses not to, reveals he knows Acheron is an emanator, states living is for pussies, demands a fight to the death. She agrees, and, well, he's not a pussy anymore. We then return to the present, where the reason the scene with Ifrit played out was because Acheron answers her own question and reveals she still dreams of those she's killed. Acheron then states it's not yet Sam's time to die, and she knows who's really behind the armor. She questions why Sam hasn't actually fought, but rather played keep away with her Black Swan and the Trailblazer, and asks if Elio had anything to do with it. Sam just kinda answers yes'n't to that before asking Acheron who she really is. Acheron dodges the question, but stated she's wanted by the IPC, but apparently in Chinese, it's she at one point was wanted by the IPC, indicating she's no longer wanted by the IPC, but regardless, because of her at one point wanted position by the IPC, she naturally knows a bit about the Stellaron Hunters. She then offers to help Sam because once again, she knows who's in the armor. Sam refuses, but tells Acheron that if she's interested in the Watchmaker's legacy, to look into the family because they're hiding too many things, and that the Astral Express aren't her enemy. Sam then reveals the one thing in Elio's script was to get the entirety of the Astral Express to hunt down the Watchmaker's legacy. Acheron then asks if she was ever brought up in Elio's script, to which Sam tells her no before then answering her earlier question about whether Sam dreams of those he's killed. He replies he doesn't, and that he was born without the ability to dream. He then states he lives in a cold reality, to burn to ash, and then speaks in a manner that should have never left the lab.
I really envy you.
Nigga, yeah, bro, y'all remember when we all thought this man Sam was just some badass killing machine bred to slaughter with no mercy and was a what is this? What is this? I think this line would have worked better if it was like Firefly used her voice or some shit, or they blended the two, but just, man, hearing this out of Sam just sounds wrong, dog. We then jump back to Himiko and Friends, where we discuss both Robin and Firefly's deaths, where it's revealed the family asked for the Express crew's help in tracking down Firefly's killer, but mentioned nothing of Robin's death. When it comes to accepting Aventurine's proposal, Himiko leaves it up to Welt, who suggested they work with Aventurine so as to keep the family at bay should things go awry. The group then splits off, so we go around asking for their thoughts on the current situation. Interestingly, when we speak to Welt, he asks us how we remember Acheron. You're forced to answer you don't remember, and if you pick any other option, it reappears in red and you select it. Himiko simply ponders Aventurine's angle, and March is just sulking over Robin's death. The group reconvenes before splitting into two groups. One group, consisting of the Trailblazer, March, and Himiko, will return to the hotel in the real world and try to see if they can find Firefly, who should have awoken after dying. The other team is just OG, big old daddy Welts, who by his lonesome wants to investigate some things in the dreamscape. The first group heads off, leaving Welt all by his lonesome, before suddenly he demands the honored guest to show herself. In but a moment, Acheron fucking materializes out of thin air. They exchange pleasantries before Acheron asks Welt what the common folk think of her, to which Welt informs her that some believe her to be the one behind all the killings in Penacony, following the tragic fate of the Annihilation Gang at her hands. She then profusely rejects the claim that Duke Inferno met a tragic fate at her hands, and corrects Welt that despite being a villain, Ifrit was a heroic pathstrider who died as a martyr at her hands. Acheron then questions if the blade she wields is more lethal than the black hole Welt has, to which he commends her intuition, stating not even the family was able to pick up on the true purpose behind his cane. However, her possessing this info amongst the other knowledge she has regarding the Express, combined with her false identity, has made her a threat and a rogue agent. And in the coldest scene of the entire game, Welt proceeds to Sunfather Time himself, turn back the hands of time, and gives this bitch two options.
Reveal your true identity and intentions. Otherwise, brace yourself for gravitational disintegration.
Bro, it's been 3 days and I'm still hyped about this fucking scene, bro. Look at the OG, go. That's OG right there, dog. Bro, on my dead fucking grandmother, he's the coldest nigga in the game just for that alone, man. Acheron, hearing boss music, informs Welt that's won't be necessary. Says she'll abide to make the nameless feel more at ease. and then doesn't abide. She instead tells us she's on Penacony to fulfill an old request and that she too is after the watchmaker's legacy, whilst then presses her once more on her true identity, to which she responds, it's not really something that can be answered with brevity, so I'm not going to answer it at all. Before suddenly revealing she knows about the Stellaron in the Trailblazer, she then tells Welch she's been to many of the different dreamscapes searching for the legacy before she came to the realization that the Watchmaker's legacy probably has something to do with the Trailblaze. She then tells him she believes that the source of all these tragedies comes from within the family and wants the Express crew's help to find evidence to back her claim. Wells asks her to share her findings with him and she obliges but wants to grab a drink first. We then cut to Black Swan, who's in Acheron's room cause, I don't know, lesbian. Black Swan then does some memo keeper shit to recall the memories of the Annihilation Gang before they perished. We hear Ifrit speaking with Dubro when they first get the music box, and then eventually hear the rest of the Everflame Mansion repeat their one-liners from the trailer. Black Swan laments that Acheron will be back soon, and decides to go all out to find out what truly happened between Acheron and the Annihilation Gang. However, she finds nothing. There are inexplicably no memories that exist regarding the two sides' encounter. Black Swan remarks, it's as if someone erased the memories and wonders who. Suddenly, Black Swan hears another voice. However, this one is speaking in real time. The voice reveals herself to be Constance, who states she knows Black Swan is after Acheron's secrets and says she will give them to Black Swan so that Black Swan will enjoy the banquets on her behalf. What a kind lady. The phone then rings, and before we find out who's calling, our POV switch to Aventurine, whose dream conveniently gives us exposition about his home planet Sigonia, of which the most important fact is they've developed their own belief system independent of the Eons, and one of the beings they worship is a beefy-sounding bitch named Gallagher Triclops. The scene we are presently experiencing is Aventurine's mother, who reveals to us that Aventurine's father is dead. Aventurine's mother then asks Gallagher Triceratops to bless the child or some shit, and it just like starts raining, so I guess that means the kid was blessed with good luck? She informs him of this fact when he's a toddler, before revealing that his name is Kakovshka, meaning child blessed by Gallagher. I think I got that right, Kakovshka. Yeah, that was pretty good by me. I can repeat. Ratio then wakes up Aventurine and tells him his guess was correct, and that the family is covering up Robin's death, and are even streaming her rehearsals using a stand-in. I wonder who that could be.
How about this? I'll stand in for your dear sister at events. Surely you don't want the world to hear the Charmony Festival's been called off.
The family has a plan. And do not dishonor my dear sister with your deceitful tongue again, fool.
Ratio then clues Aventurine in on the fact that someone else, a stowaway, was also killed, but he doesn't know who. Aventurine then recalls Sparkle's words to him to find a mute to speak with, who he reasons was Robin, given she lost her voice, but not due to overexerting it, but because her voice is in part connected with the resonance of the harmony, which means that something must be up with the family. But before he could speak with her, she died. Ratio informs Aventurine that while the family believes his alibi for Robin's murder, he will still be under close surveillance via the Bloodhounds. Aventurine is dismayed upon learning this and asks Ratio if there's a way to come back from all this and reclaim Penacony for the IPC, to which Ratio suggests meeting with Sunday, who requested to meet Aventurine. We solve some puzzles, even one that has us fucking go mini-mini. I didn't say that word right. Before stopping just outside Sunday's doors, where Ratio inquires about Aventurine's plan, to which he replies he doesn't have one and he's just gonna go with the flow, but does inform Ratio that he doesn't believe Acheron to be involved with the murders, but rather there's a traitor in the family who's done all of this. Aventurine then says 3 chips, all or nothing, and rolls into Sunday's quarters, currently assuming his favorite fucking position in the game. And then, in a scene that takes on a totally different meaning after completing the quest, Aventurine asks Sunday if Ratio has faithfully done his duty, to which Sunday replies, he has. Sunday then derides Aventurine's investigation into Robin, leading him to witness her death. Aventurine then inadvertently accuses the family of being responsible for her death, which Sunday tackles head on. Aventurine clarifies that Robin's voice has been out of tune ever since she arrived on Penacony, and now the bitch can't sing period because she's dead. So, Aventurine wants to help Sunday find the culprit. Sunday asks what Aventurine wants in return for helping him, to which he responds he wants back what was taken from him by the family, the bag of money and the box with the cornerstone in it. It's then revealed that cornerstones are given to all 10 Stonehearts and each contain the power of Klapoth's emanator within them. However, it's due to this power that Sunday refuses to hand over the cornerstone, to which Aventurine states he'll just take the bag of cash and be on his way. Sunday then questions why Aventurine would be so willing to part ways with the cornerstone. So, does some on-the-fucking-fly voodoo onto him to bind him with the power of the harmony to tell the truth when asked a question. Aventurine is asked a series of questions and answers every question truthfully, except for the last one, which was, can you swear that at this very moment the Aventurine stone is safe and sound in this very box? He replied yes, but when he opens the box at Sunday's command, he does not find a single stone in it. Shocked, Sunday then reveals himself to be in possession of 2 cornerstones. The scene then jumps to hours earlier, where it reveals Ratio seemingly betrayed Aventurine for whatever info the family has on Stellarons. Sunday considered it a possibility that the cornerstone Aventurine submitted wasn't his, so he had Ratio open the box, who confirmed his hypothesis, as the stone in the box is the Topaz Stone. Sunday then wishes to know where Aventurine's stone is, to which Ratio points to the bag of money, as Aventurine wished to hide his stone in plain sight. Back in the present, Sunday snitches on Ratio immediately, and thanks him for his service. He then informs Aventurine he has 17 system hours to live, because he lied when Sunday did the earlier voodoo technique. The only way to avoid death, however, is to complete Sunday's test, and upon completion, he will become one with the harmony and join the family. Sunday's test is simple, given he will start purging evil from the family within 17 hours. Aventurine has 17 hours to investigate more about the family as an outsider. If his findings match Sunday's, or he manages to uncover more than Sunday's, then Sheepe will spare him. Aventurine says, well, they'll at the very least need his bag of money to get information, to which Sunday says he can take that worthless piece of shit. That worthless bag of nothing. Before Aventurine leaves, Sunday repeats an earlier question he asked to Aventurine during the trial. Do you truly wish to bring about the destruction of this world? The scene then cuts to an interaction between young Kakavshka and his older sister, who's lecturing him on going out of his way to retrieve a necklace stolen by the Catacons, who are just like, these other fucking bad guys. Kakavshka says it's fine because Catacons are dumb, and to get the necklace back, all he had to do was play a game. He made a bet with the Catacons, and I kid you not, the bet was, who will die first in the desert? 2 birds or Kakavshka? Kakavshka won. Yeah, Kakavshka won. A weird-ass fucking bet. We then return to the Trailblazers' perspective with Himiko and March and learn that Firefly is not in the hotel system, and the front staff has never even heard of her. Suddenly, Topaz and her glorious thighs appear, where it sounds like she's here for moral support or some shit. She can't even get in. The family won't let her into the dreamscape, so she says she's stuck in the lobby, but because she was being watched by the Bloodhound officers, that gives us the opportunity to go speak with the officers. You know, maybe she's here because she just wanted to check in on her stone. That could be it. Anyway, the officers tell us that Captain Gallagher is at Dream's Edge, so we go and speak to him and tell him we are investigating the murders on the behalf of the family. He then says we should speak about this, but not here. We then cut to Acheron and Welt, where Acheron gives her thoughts on stuff, and he just sounds very Nietzsche-esque. That bitch reminded me of Owlman.
It doesn't matter.
She then tells us about all the other dreamscapes she's visited and her pursuit for the legacy. And then their conversation just becomes like rooted in philosophy, and I'm like 98% sure they just start alluding to Honkai Impact the Third stuff. Man, I feel so left out. And then at some point they bring up Icarus. I'm also like, I'm missing a big part of this conversation. I just have to be. The most important takeaway for me anyway was they sort of rehashed the whole like XP thing like that. Acheron is similar to the girl from Welt's home planet. Ultimately, she's not her. And Acheron is also herself run into all these sort of similar beings. Honestly, if someone wants to type up the Honkai Impact, the third connection, go for it. I think I read it has something to do with Kevin, but I don't know, I'm an ape, man. This flew way over my head. We cut back to Black Swan standing in Acheron's room, still standing before that ringing phone. She eventually picks it up, but doesn't speak. A man then immediately speaks and asks Acheron if she's having a good time on Penacony. He then calls her an imposter galaxy ranger and says he's on his way to Penacony to put a bullet in her. Black Swan then speaks maybe 2 sentences, and although she is an Acheron, the man just states he'll put 2 bullets in her too. Black Swan then clarifies she's also investigating Acheron, to which the man laughs, says it's great he's found an ally, and that he's happy to swap info over drinks when he gets to Penacony. This motherfucker is a true American, a true and tried American. And yeah, if you haven't guessed it by now, this is indeed boothill. However, before the call ends, boothill gives Black Swan one important piece of information. And I'm finna let the voice actor say it, bro. The way he delivered this line was just...
That lady's passed. Well, nobody knows. But if all you want is a simple answer, sure, you best get a chair and take a seat. That woman, named Acheron, is an emanator who should not exist.
We then cut back to Adventure Time in Ratio, where it's revealed Ratio's betrayal was all according to Aventurine's plan, and Ratio was just doing as instructed. The only thing they didn't account for was Sunday's voodoo magic ritual that has now placed him on a timer. Ratio then gives Aventurine some device and tells him to use it when death's a knockin' before completely Batman disappearing for the 2nd time in Penacony, in a way that's even more hilarious than the last, considering where the fuck could he have gone? It's open space, bro. We then go around asking NPCs about the stowaway and death in a bid to get info for Sunday, trading gems all the while, but get no useful information. Sparkle, who was masked as one of the NPCs, reveals herself and comments on how impressive it is for Aventurine to get shackled up by the family. When she told him to befriend a mute, which... I mean, I know that as she said befriend a rock in English, but honest to God, I don't think... It's not like... Everyone thought that line was just about Sparkle being more demonic than she was. Yeah, whatever. Sparkle says Aventurine is getting closer to the truth, and Aventurine asks if Sparkle was really referring to the mute as Robin. The shot widens, and we see one of Sunday's ravens keeping an eye before Sparkle says, no, there were 2 mutes. She is dead, but he is still on Penacony, even though we will never find him again. Preliminary guess, I mean, I think this is either the Watchmaker or Misha, who's the 2nd mute, and I'll try and explain later why, when it becomes more relevant. Sparkle offers Aventurine a mutually assured destruction button that will, she claims, blow up Penacony. He declines, but states after he upends this entire system, she can press the button. Cut to another flashback. This was after the massacre that left him the sole surviving Avogin. He was scooped up, then bought by a man who gave him a mark on his neck. That Aventurine competes in games against a bunch of other slaves. We then return to the Trailblazer and crew once more with Gallagher in a bar, who at this point sounds way too much like Sampo Koski.
That's exactly what I had in mind. Hey, my friends, do me a favor. Go around the bar and bring me any ingredients you fancy. The discussion might take quite some time, so I'll prepare some customized, non-alcoholic drinks for you.
Gallagher tells us Firefly was indeed the stowaway he let go earlier, and said his age must be catching up with him, which is interesting considering. He then tells us Firefly has seemingly vanished without a trace from both the dreamscape and reality, but not as if she died, but as if she never existed in the first place. Gallagher then relents. Death does exist in Penacony, but only happens to, just a couple people a year. He then states, we must get closer to the crux of the issue regarding the family, and references the music box, stating the message inside was written by the Watchmaker and not the family. The family considers the Watchmaker an enemy, and have been trying to track him down, but can't because he hides in the characters he's created, like Clocky. Hence earlier why I speculated that mute might be him, but I'm running on fumes right now, man. It is late at night Gallagher then reveals the reason the family even let the watchmaker send out the message and invite all the factions was because they were hoping to catch him. Because the watchmaker isn't some legend in the land of dreams. He's the biggest stain in Penacony and the roots of all the tragedies. Gallagher then states that Mikhail, the betrayer of the family, is the watchmaker. Gallagher then takes us to an amusement park and tells us a bit about Penacony's past, with the most important thing being characters such as Clocky and Hanu are based on real people, with Clocky being the watchmaker. Gallagher then looks us dead in our fucking eyes and says he's 13 years old. Which, I mean, was probably meant to clue us in on the fact that he's a follower of Enigmata, but without context just sounds hilarious. Because, bro, if he's 13, then I'm 8 months pregnant. Gallagher states he's one of the watchmaker's children and that he's a traitor because he did nothing for the watchmaker. Mikhail eventually became too old to care for his kids, so the kids left the family and they were called traitors. The family sings the praises of the watchmaker to the public, all the while lambasting him behind closed doors. The kids, including Gallagher, eventually gave up trying to clear Mikhail's name and find the real traitor. So the family accepted them back once more, and as a form of forgiveness, Gallagher came back as an officer. Apparently, Mikhail would then die in a place no one would find him, and ever since, someone else has been inheriting the title of the watchmaker and working in opposition to the family. Gallagher says he doesn't know who the new watchmaker is, but even throws up the idea it could be Mikhail's ghost. He then thanks us for listening to an old guy like him and departs. With everything he told us, Himiko reasons the traitor is someone from within the Oak family, which, for reference, is Sunday's family. We then swap on over to Acheron and, well, to are headed into Sunday's mansion to uncover what the family are hiding. We come across a letter from Robin to Sunday where she addresses her voice being off and attributes it to someone from within the family tampering with the harmony. However, given we are talking about altering an entire path of an eon, Acheron reasons the traitor is a high-ranking member of the family or someone with unimaginable power. Another letter is a list that contains the names of everyone Death has ever killed on Penacony, and another is from a guy named Otis who's displeased that Sunday has stopped focusing on the Charmony Festival to pursue the matter of the traitor. Otis also reveals that the Dream Master is also displeased with Sunday and that he better watch himself. One final list contains a list of suspects and their descriptions, to which Acheron almost makes a note of their characteristics but stops herself. Sunday soon pops in, asks what they're doing, says that although Aventurine isn't a murderer, or the murderer, they should still watch out for him. The scene then changes once more, and we're back in another Aventurine flashback where he was apprehended by the IPC following a fraud case, and one of the Stonehearts, Jade, stands before him, where we learn Kakovshka killed his master. I don't know, the only thing that came from this was that Jade was the one who recruited Kakovshka into the IPC. As he edges closer to death, Aventurine begins to see and interact with his past and future self. We learn Ratio's betrayal was indeed simply the plan, and it worked beautifully, with him in the end acquiring his own cornerstone, albeit a smashed up one. His plan worked as such. Aventurine arrived into Penacony with 3 stones. His, Topaz's, and Jade's. Topaz's was in the box, whilst the bag of cash would hold both the Jade and Aventurine stone. When they were all confiscated, Aventurine took advantage of the fact that Sunday is paranoid and had Ratio feign a betrayal to show Sunday that not only does the box not hold the Aventurine cornerstone, his real cornerstone was in the bag of cash. Because Jade and Aventurine are similar, it'd be hard for Sunday to know the difference, and he didn't. This now leaves the Aventurine stone, which was crushed and smashed to pieces within the bag of cash so as to avoid detection, but still be present enough so Aventurine can draw on its power when necessary, albeit not as much as it would have been if it weren't crushed. So when Sunday gave Aventurine the bag of cash after being in possession of both the Jade and Topaz cornerstone, he incorrectly guessed Penacony was free from the threat of cornerstones, as Aventurine seemingly 47,000 steps ahead this time. More Kakovshka flashbacks happened, which I can't be fucked. I'm so close to the end, I can taste it. The whole reason these kept piling on, however, was because Aventurine was seemingly marching towards his death at that amusement park. Eventually, Aventurine makes his way to the stage, where we then swap back to the Trailblazer who's with the crew in Acheron. Welch begins to hone in on Aventurine's actions in Penacony thus far, and reasons he knows the truth and might do something drastic involving the express crew soon, so it's worth keeping Acheron around, who he has since cleared of any suspicion. Suddenly, Aventurine takes control of what is probably the worst PA system in the galaxy, and invites the Nameless to come to him.
To begin, the IPC cordially invites everyone to Alot Studios theme park.
Aventurine's whole plan here is to prove death doesn't exist in Penacony, so while he's fighting the express crew, ultimately, his goal was to force Acheron into killing him, which is what ends up happening. Before she launches a nuke from her sword, however, we get another Acheron flashback that sees her talking to a man. She informs him of her plans to head to Penacony. He says the family won't accept her into the dream worlds due to the path she follows. It's then revealed she's an emanator of nihility, and a self-annihilator at that. Hence why she chose to pretend she followed the path of the hunt as a galaxy ranger. It's now she proceeds to overkill the fuck out of Aventurine.
I wish to mourn the departed, weeping like rain, to swell the crossing stream. As the tide arrives, leading you back home.
And he soon wakes up in her, I don't know, special place. She reveals IX glances at no one. People just fall into its shadow and proceed from there. She states this place is a fleeting dream, a manifestation of IX that we linger in before walking our own paths. Acheron then reveals she knows Aventurine's plans. She knows how he wants to get into the fucking back rooms of Penacony, but one first needs to suffer a dream death to get there. She calls it Penacony, the legacy of the Watchmaker, the true land of exile. They both then reveal they know the Trailblazer's real identity, which, I mean, oh, fuck it, I'm down for whatever at this point. We learn the barrier built by the Dreamweavers that keeps death out also keeps out the family's secret, so the only way to get to those secrets is to go to the other side of the barrier, hence Aventurine dying. We then learn that someone has already gone beyond this barrier and learned the truth, but is now too scared to speak about the truth. That person is Robin, who's mute not because she can't sing, but because she's scared to. A caged bird she is. You hate to see it. Aventurine tells us she's currently somewhere safe and sound. Another person who has also deliberately chosen death to go beyond the barrier is Robin, but because the meme strikes seemingly random, Aventurine needed another way to die, strong enough to shatter the barriers, hence the emanator Acheron. Acheron also tells us she can take off the fucking voodoo Sunday put on him, but he doesn't really respond. I guess he's into that shit. Acheron instructs Aventurine to wake up from this dream world and head off into the deep sea to uncover the truths. But before, he asks probably the worst person in the universe a philosophical question about death. She just says pointless this, pointless that, something, I don't know. Look, I just want to end this, man. She reminds him of the tool Ratio gave him and heads off. We then cut to the Trailblazer and Sam, who have somehow linked up after the Trailblazer blacked out, I guess, following Aventurine's attempted super attack. Sam states he tried 11 times to go beyond the barrier and failed 11 times. Fuck me, my nigga. This is why earlier Sam told Acheron to unsheath her blade, because like Aventurine, he wanted to get slashed. Sam then reveals himself to be Firefly. Oh, shocker. Again, this is all preliminary, but I think the point of the scene was just to show why Elio wanted Sam to get the Astral Express to find the Watchmaker's legacy, because Sam can't do it due to being too intertwined in I should start fucking saying Firefly. Firefly can't do it because she's too intertwined with this world. We'll talk about it more later. We get one final scene with Gallagher and Sunday where they just, they just talk about life. Sunday admits that although aventurine got the better of him, he's interested to see what comes of this gamble. He states the reason he let aventurine loose and closed the park for him was because his real target was Gallagher and the watchmaker. Gallagher just goes, well, fuck you and the Dream Master then. And then, in perhaps the most eerie scene of the entire game, Sunday begins to point out Gallagher isn't a real person. Rather, he's an amalgamation of a bunch of other different people. The brown hair of Bennett, the orange eyes of Whitaker, and the scar on his arm of Woosley. In the end, we learn the thing calling itself Gallagher is made up of 52 different traits from other people, meshed into one. Gallagher then chuckles and says he underestimated Sunday. At some point in this spiel, Sunday then reveals that the thing calling itself Gallagher is a follower of Enigmata, a path corresponding with the Aeon Mythos. Believing Gallagher to be the one who kills Robin, he asks why. To which Gallagher responds.
You know, in the thick of things, people are blind to the grit in their eyes. Yet they can always feel it scratch. Want the answer? I'll give it to you. The whole thing is just fate playing a cruel joke on us.
Oh, fuck me, we're done, bro. I'm going to bed. I'll see you guys Saturday.